Great, welcome folks to this information session about graduate housing, the graduate housing pilot at the courtyards at UMD. My name is Jennifer Lindstrom. I am the manager for housing partnerships in the Department of Resident Life at University of Maryland. And I have a dog in here, so my apologies for the barking. It'd be scratching otherwise at my door. Anyway, my name is Jennifer Lindstrom. I'm the manager for housing partnerships at the University of Maryland, and I work for the Department of Resident Life. My role in leasing with the courtyards is the representative of the university to some extent. I work with Resident Life IT to put together the StarRes website that will allow you to apply for leasing at the courtyards and also select apartments. I'm here with my colleague, Christopher Mason, who I'll let introduce.
Hi, I'm Christopher Mason. I'm oversee the day-to-day operations here at the courtyards at UMD. Pleasure to join you and talk more about grad housing at the courtyards.
Great. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we get fully into the information that you're eagerly waiting to hear. We have a Q&A option. So if you have questions, generally we ask that you leave them to the end because inevitably we'll answer a question during the presentation. But we've also enabled the upvote option. So if somebody asks a question that you also have, feel free to upvote that. And that way we know what's most important to students and we don't get a lot of duplicates. Please refrain from using the chat just because everything's easier to manage in the Q&A. And since there's just two of us running the show today, one less place to look is always appreciated. This session is being recorded for your convenience. So please make sure if you miss anything to go back and check out the recording when we're finished. That'll be put up on the website that you've been referencing for the grad housing program at Courtyards, and that's go.umd.edu/grad housing. And we'll put that in the chat so that you guys have that for your reference. So basically we'll be using the chat for our purposes and for sharing information with you. And then if you could use the Q&A to share information or ask us questions, that would be really helpful. All right, let's get started. All right. So we're actually going to start out with a recording of the virtual tour. So let me make sure that I have shared my sound. I'm going to stop sharing real quick just to make sure that I'm sharing my sound because I forgot to click that button. Let's make sure I share the sound and screen two. Great. Now you should be able to hear the sound once I click the button. Here we go. Sorry. I can't click two places at once. Okay, and just a quick note on that, it showed all the different types of housing in Courtyards as a community, different apartment types. For the grad housing pilot, there's going to be 4x4s available and 2x2s available. So just to clarify. So just to give a quick overview of what the Courtyards is, it's a public-private partnership that is focused on housing our students. Historically, it's been an undergraduate housing community, and this year we are piloting a graduate program in one of the 7 buildings. It'll be in building 6 this year. The Courtyards is managed by a private company called Capstone On-Campus Management that is owned by Medco. And the leasing eligibility and kind of the rules side of things is determined by the University of Maryland Department of Resident Life. So that's the relationship between the university and Capstone On-Campus Management. One of the nice things about the Courtyards is that there are folks around the property to assist you if you need them, including their community staff of resident assistants and resident directors, as well as folks like Chris in the leasing office and other staff. I'm going to hand it over to Chris.
All right, so the Courtyards for grad housing, is all in building 6. Building 6 features 32 apartments for 94 total graduate students. Courtyards is located right across from the Xfinity Center, 193. Some features of the Courtyards are free parking. You can register 1 vehicle. The vehicle does have to be either registered to your name, or you have to have the same address as the vehicle registration to register your vehicle at the Courtyards. The Courtyards end does not allow you to register your vehicle part of on campus with dots. That's separate. So your 1 vehicle is allowed to be registered at Courtyards. We also have a great gym and a rec room. We also have a outdoor pool, beach volleyball court. We have a computer station, which is bring your own paper and you can print as much as you like. And like Jenny just said a little earlier, the 2 options available in building 6 are 4-bed, 4-bath and 2-bedroom, 2-bath deluxe apartments. Also, all other features include an alarm system, and there's also an alarm inside your bedroom space as well. So what's included in the apartment? It's very similar to a residence hall type of situation where there's not any extras included like there are in the off-campus housing community. So for example, all your utilities are included. Your electricity, your water, UMD, internet and cable is also part of this. The apartments are fully furnished. You have kitchens with full-size appliances, fridge, ice maker, dishwasher, etc. Full-size washer and dryer are included as well. So talking a little bit about the cost and what that looks like. So if you're looking at a 4-bedroom, 4-bath apartment, the total rate from August 23rd, 2022 to July 28, 2023 is $10,980 for a 2-bed, 2-bath deluxe apartment. The total rate is $12,624. So you are not paying what is like a monthly rent cycle. You are paying for August 23rd, 2022 to July 28, 2023. So that total rate, if we take the 4-bed, 4-bath, total rate for that time period is $10,980. And we divide that into 12 installments. So the first installment would be due August 1. The last installment would be due on July 1, 2023. And so that's how the money aspect of that works and how the installments are divided out. If you use financial aid and so forth, funds remaining after tuition fees are paid directly to you, and you would be responsible for paying the Courtyards. So for example, there's not any kind of money taken out of from financial aid directly to us. So financial aid, anything such as that, scholarships that come to you, you would have to pay directly to the Courtyards. Checks are accepted, money orders, but the easiest way is to pay through the Courtyards portal. you can set up an automatic payment to be taken out of your account on the 1st. And in addition, with the cost, you are responsible for having insurance, such as renter's insurance, prior to move-in. And so we will not be checking verification of that at move-in. However, it is required. So if a situation occurs that is your responsibility, you have insurance. Or in case another student of the apartment above you, it's their responsibility, it damages your belongings, your insurance will be there to protect you in those types of scenarios.
Sorry, I'm trying to answer some of these questions as you go. So for apartment selection 2022, this is the general apartment selection is where the primary way students sign leases at the courtyards. After our leasing processes, if a student later realizes that they can't live there, there is an opportunity to transfer a lease. So if for some reason you aren't able to lease, maybe we fill up too fast, you might have an opportunity to release from another grad student who later changes their mind about living in the courtyards. So the timeline is going to be pretty short on this process, mainly because there's just not a lot of beds to fill. So you'll be able to fill out the 2022-2023 leasing application on starting May 16th, and then the priority lease applications will be accepted through the 23rd. The leasing applications are available on the StarRes portal. The website for that is starres.umd.edu. I believe that's on the Courtyards Grad website, but I will put this in the chat for your reference. So starres.umd.edu is the main location for the applications for commons in the courtyards. It's also going to be where the apartment selection actually happens. So fill out your application between May 16th and the 23rd. Then we'll post appointment times in the StarRes housing portal on May 26th. To access your appointment times, you would go back to your application and click through until you see your application status page. And that's where the appointment time will be listed. There will be an opportunity to form groups beginning on May 27th. If you don't know folks and want to form a group, I think your best resource is the OCH database, which is run by my office, and the website is ochdatabase.umd.edu. If you log in with your university credentials, you can complete a roommate profile and also search for other roommates to potentially form a group with. The virtual apartment selection will occur on June 2nd and June 3rd, 2022. The first day of the selection will be for groups. So group sizes 2, 3, or 4. And then on June 3rd, apartment selection for individuals will begin, and then groups will continue. And then if there's any vacancies remaining after that, they'll be filled at a later selection event, depending on how many vacancies remain. When you're selecting, you'll be able to see vacancies based on your group size. So if there is, so in a 2-bedroom apartment, if you're a group of 2, you will be able to see any vacancy in a 2-bedroom apartment, but you will not be able to see vacancies in a 4-bedroom apartment unless somebody has selected in a different way, which I don't know what that would be. If you're a group of 1 on the first day, you won't be able to make any selections because it's reserved for people who have groups. But on the second day, you'll be able to see apartments with single vacancies remaining. After you've made your selection in the StarRes housing portal, You'll have access to your lease within minutes of making your final selection. You'll navigate back into your leasing application to the status page, and that will take you directly to the lease. It's a DocuSign lease that you'll sign online. After you've signed your lease, the guarantor that you listed on your application will receive an email for their DocuSign guarantor form. And please note when you're filling out the application, your guarantor must not be a student, and they must be over the age of 21 and have a social security number. Then after you sign your lease, you'll pay a one-time housing application fee of $25 and then a $300 lease reservation. And that $300 lease reservation is applied towards your first month's installment, which is due on August 1st. So that first payment, I can't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but let's say it's $1,000. So that first payment in August would be $700. And once again, I just want to remind folks to please put your questions in the Q&A, not in the chat. Chris and I want to keep the chat open for links and things that we want to share with you. So if you have any questions, please list them in the Q&A. Chris will try to answer as I'm talking, and I'll try to answer as he's talking, and then we'll get the rest at the end of the presentation. Please be patient. There's only a few slides. So for eligibility, you have to be a grad student who's registered for fall 2022, and you're in good standing academically and judicially. Typically, if you're a first-time graduate student at Maryland or have never been a graduate student or a student at Maryland, you'll be fine for the academic and judicial eligibility. There really isn't the only priority system that's attached to grad housing is the date range. So anyone who applies between May 16th and the 23rd will have priority to get appointments for June 2nd and 3rd. If anyone that fills out the application after the 23rd, we'll reach out to them if there's any vacancies after the main selection period is over. And just to let you know, this housing at the courtyards, in general is exclusive to UMD undergrad and graduate students. So, and that's UMD College Park. No other University of Maryland system school is allowed to live in the courtyards. And all of the leases are for individuals. And so the bedrooms are also for individuals. So it's limited to one student per bedroom, which is indicated in the lease. So unfortunately, if you have spouses that are not affiliated or not graduate students, they wouldn't be able to live in your apartment. Spouses cannot share bedrooms. So you can't put two people in a bedroom. If you have a spouse that's a graduate student, that would be a conversation to have with Chris, because as of right now for this pilot, all apartments will be single gender. So a couple of the frequently asked questions that we've got from undergrads, and kind of as we've progressed with some of the questions from grad students. Can I cancel my lease early? So this is, like Chris had said, the lease is basically a year-long lease, 11 and a half or so months. You can't cancel your lease. The only way to no longer be responsible for your lease would be to transfer your lease to another graduate student during through the releasing process. You can email me at pppleasing@umd.edu for more information about the releasing process. We also have a website in the Department of Resident Life, on the Department of Resident Life website, that describes the releasing process. There's a total of how many spaces are being offered. There's a total of 94 bed spaces, and that breaks down to 64 in 4-bedroom, 4-bathroom units, and then 30 in the 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom deluxe units. So it's not a lot of spaces. So I would bear in mind, that's why we want to kind of do this process a little bit early. so that folks, if folks aren't able to make a selection during the apartment selection process, that they can look for additional housing. Again, can my spouse live with me? That's a no. The Courtyards is exclusive to Maryland students and is limited to 1 student per bedroom. So no spouses. Some important dates to remember going forward. Once again, the application opens on May 16th. That is Monday, this coming Monday. It'll be open, I believe, at 9 a.m. And the deadline to participate in the apartment selection processes in June. I apologize if I said January at some point. I do that. That deadline is May 23rd at 4 p.m. So if you don't have your application in by May 23rd at 4 p.m., you won't be able to participate in the June 2nd and 3rd apartment selection process. We'll post the leasing appointments in the STARS portal on May 26th. And then you can form groups on starting on the 27th, and that'll just stay open the entire time. And then the selection, virtual apartment selection, will be June 2nd and June 3rd. Chris, do you want to talk about the tours that are coming up?
Sure. We're doing the first tour this upcoming Friday from 4 to 7 p.m. where we're going to be showing a 2-bed, 2-bath deluxe and a 4-bed, 4-bath apartment. And then we're doing another tour available on Tuesday, May 17th from 4 to 7 p.m. Those are the only 2 dates that you would be able to see what the apartment style looks like.
All right. Well, that's all of the information that we have at this point. For you, we can jump into the questions. Chris, I'll read a question, and if I can answer it, I will. If not, I'll ask you to do it. How about that?
Cool.
All right. So yes. So is the first payment due on August 1st? That's a yes. Chris, do you want to go over once again why that is? And I can navigate to the slide that talks about that.
No, it's the first installment's due August 1. Your $300 lease reservation payment goes towards that first installment. So for example, what the rate is of a 2-bed, 2-bath deluxe apartment, which is $1,052. Instead, you would pay $752 on August 1. On September 1, you pay $1,052, and so on until July 1 of 2023.
Yeah, so that first payment is the first of the 12. All right. So I'm back to the pricing again. The installment rate is per person. So it's not per bedroom. It's $915 for each of the 4 people. So there'll be $915 per times 4. It's not divided between the 4.
And just so we're clear, it's an individual lease. If your roommate transfers, leaves, etc., you are not responsible for your roommate or that empty space if that was to happen. Individual leases mean that you are only responsible for your installment payment. Your roommate is not reflective of their situation. Can we have guests over? As we talked about a little bit earlier, overnight guests such as spouses, etc., no one else is allowed to live with you in the apartment besides yourself. It's an individual lease meant for 1 person. Can you have guests over? Yes, at the consent of all roommates. You're allowed to have people come over and visit, etc. But again, as far as overnight guests, etc., we have a strict policy in regards to that and other people living at the Courtyards. It's only for yourself.
There's a question about standards for accepting applications. That's this eligibility and priority slide. To be eligible, you have to be a graduate student in good standing academically and judicially. If you're not a graduate student, you won't be able to fill out the application. So applications are pretty widely accepted as long as you are a graduate student. And then the appointments are assigned at random. So once we receive all the appointments once we receive all the applications as of 4 p.m. on May 23rd, we will we'll randomly assign appointment times for those, and that's basically how selection will go. There'll be multiple people with the same appointment time because not everybody will be looking at the same apartment, and people will be forming groups. But your appointment time won't guarantee you housing. So filling out an application and receiving it, sorry about that, and receiving an appointment does not guarantee housing. Once again, there are only 94 beds, and there were over 90 people just in this session. Let's see. As an international student, can I submit an application and even when my F1 visa is still being processed? Yes, it's a no obligation application. So I would fill that out just to get it in. I think it's no obligation. So I would say definitely fill that out. I think the challenge would be if you make a selection and for some reason your visa doesn't go through and you're not able to attend. At that point, you'd still be responsible for the lease. However, you would be able to go through the releasing process to transfer that lease. Chris, will you take that guarantor question?
So the guarantor must have a social security number, and that's going to be a requirement as part of the lease. So as soon as you finish signing the lease, so first off, to back up on the application that you fill out between May 16th and May 23rd, it asks for your guarantor's email address. Please put in the correct email address for your guarantor, because as soon as you finish the lease, so when you select your apartment on June 2nd or on June 3rd, as soon as you complete your lease, immediately the guarantor will receive an email with the guarantor form that they need to fill out and complete, and a social security number will be required.
What is the grace period between selecting the apartment and signing the lease?
It's going to be about 48 hours approximately. You're going to get an email as soon as you, on that day of, with the exact deadline that you have to complete the lease. If you don't complete the lease by that deadline, you will lose access to that apartment and to sign the lease, and will go to another student. It'll be about approximately 48 hours.
Kind of going back to the guarantor question, I'm not sure if you saw this when you're answering. Question is, can the guarantor be on a visa in the US, but not a student visa?
The guarantor just has to have a social security number. And so that's the requirement for a guarantor, is to have a social security number.
If I had to drop the plan, can we get $300 as a refund?
Sorry, repeat that question.
Sorry, my dog is yelling at me. If basically if they realize that they can't keep the lease, can they be refunded the $300?
If you sign a lease, once you sign and complete a lease, the lease is yours. You are now have responsibility of that space. The only way to get out of the lease at that point would be to find another eligible UMD graduate student to take over that space. If and when that were to happen before the first installment would be applied on August 1, yes. To successfully release before move-in, you have to do so before July 20th. If you do not release the space by July 20th, you are going to be responsible for the August 1 installment, and that $300 lease reservation payment would be applied towards your first installment. So July 20th is an important date for you, because at that point you are now the owner of that lease and are responsible for that August 1 installment. The next available date to release after July 20th would be on September 4th.
Chris, can you talk a little bit about how students will experience, I'm just taking a couple questions and combining them, group selection versus individual, like how, like, will there be apartments reserved for groups and individuals separately? What happens if everything is selected after the first day?
Yeah, there will be some spaces available on both dates. I think it might be to your advantage to try to see if you can form a group. That's ultimately up to yourself, because that first day is open to groups. There will definitely be apartments available on day 2, but just keep in mind there is a good amount of interest in these 94 spaces, so there will be day 1 will be for groups and day 2 will be for individuals for the selection process.
Sorry, I was answering.
There is no security deposit. The $300 lease reservation payment is not a security deposit. It goes towards your first installment.
We are getting the question again. I think we've answered it a couple times, but I'll answer it one last time. The installment payments are for each individual person. So if it's $915, it's $915 per person or per room. And then that total of 10,000, whatever it is, that's the total of each of the 12 installment payments. So the numbers that we've listed, that is per person. So $915 per person for a total lease of $10,980 in a 4-bedroom, 4-bath, and $1,052 per person, or $12,624 for the entire lease. We have a lot more questions about guarantors as far as lack of Social Security numbers. Is there any alternative, Chris?
The guarantor must have a Social Security number.
I'll answer this question. Where can I find groups online? Chris, if you'll do the typing for me in the chat. The best option that I know of to find groups, well, there's 2. One, you can use the OCH database, which is www.ochdatabase.umd.edu. You can go on there, log in with your university credentials, and create a profile, and then you can search other student profiles and then reach out to see if anyone's interested in courtyards and wants to form a group. The other thing I would recommend doing is working with your department or your program. A lot of programs, have times where students can meet each other. If you don't know if that's happening, reach out directly to the program manager for your program to see if there's any opportunities to reach out to students or do like a meet and greet over Zoom. I think those are probably the 2 best ways to do that. The installment rate is the same as the leasing rate. It's not a monthly rent because it's installment, because it's based on one larger number that's broken up into 12 payments. So when we say a installment, we're basically talking about the monthly payment, the payment you will make 12 times between August 1st and July 1st. The distance between College Park, so the Courtyards is in College Park. It is just north of the Xfinity Center. I would say it's walking distance to the Xfinity Center. Depending on how much you like to walk, it's walking distance to everywhere on campus. There is a shuttle stop at the Courtyards as part of the circulator route. So you might want to go to dots.umd.edu and look up the shuttle system. I believe it's the 105 bus, at least during the day. And that's the circulator route that will take you from the courtyards to campus. It's also very bikeable. And you're also, if you have a car, they have free parking on the property, not campus parking, but on the property. So if you want to park on the property and then buy a parking pass, you can. I don't recommend it because you're probably not going to get that far. Most the commuter lot is at the Xfinity Center. So you'd be wasting money, I would say, doing that. But it's nice to have a car to go grocery shopping and things like that. Either way, I'd spend some time on the DOTS website just to see all the wonderful shuttle routes that they provide. If you're not going to have a car, most of them pass through Regents Drive Garage. So that's a centralized location where you can pick up buses to do most things. Group formation and knowing, so there's a question about talking of group formation. Are we supposed to know each other prior? Many students form groups without knowing each other, particularly graduate students. It's not unusual for people to not know each other when they're moving into apartments, whether it's because there's existing lease holders or otherwise. What I would say is if you are looking to form a group, as soon as you can log into the STARA's housing portal or reach out to your program, you can start asking questions that are important to you around having a roommate. But yeah, you don't have to know somebody before you live with them, but I would try and, I mean, you're going to have to meet them to make the connection, to make your group. So I would use the time between now and June 1st to get to know some folks.
The next question about furniture being removed. Furniture cannot be removed from the apartment. It does have to stay in the apartment. There is no option to have the furniture removed.
Can you answer that next question about forming a group of 4 and a group of 2 and what's available to them?
So you can only be in one group. That's what the StarRes portal allows you to do. So you can't reserve multiple spaces at one time and then decide afterwards. Once you've selected a space, you have selected a space. It doesn't allow you to select multiple spaces. And just
yeah, you're not applying. Sorry, I'm interrupting. You're not applying for a specific space. You're just filling out a general application to be able to participate in apartment selection.
Then just so there's no 4x2 option, 4-bed 2-bath option for grad students. Building 6 would be the building that all of the graduate students would be living in. The only option in building 6 is a 4-bed 4-bath and a 2-bed 2-bath deluxe option.
Just going over some. What does renter's insurance cover for international grad students and why is it required?
The insurance is required in case of a catastrophe by yourself that you caused, or maybe your upstairs neighbors decided to wash dishes. They put the sink stopper in, they went and took a shower and they forgot. And then all of a sudden their apartment's flooded and the water went down to your apartment and damaged your belongings. In that case, even though it's your neighbor's fault, your insurance would protect you in those types of cases. If you do not have, first off, you have to have insurance because that's required part of the lease. And so that's what it does. It protects you in those types of scenarios and protects your belongings.
Just a quick note, all the times that we mention are Eastern Standard Time. Maryland is in Eastern Standard Time.
Would I be able to continue the lease next year? This is a 1-year pilot program. We all think that this program would continue into the 2023-2024 year. That's greatly anticipated, but we do anticipate it to go forth for another year. Yes, you could continue a lease for the following year if that scenario arose, and you would not have to move out. However, there are lease transition requirements that you do have to fulfill if you have a roommate moving out of the apartment. So let's say, for example, you're in a 4-bed, 4-bath apartment, and move out is July 28th of 2023, and you renew for the following year, same bed, same apartment. You would not have to move out between the July 28th to August, whatever, 2023 time period. But the common area would need to be prepared because we have to paint, we have to clean, we have the carpet clean, the common area and the open bedroom space. And so, for example, you have to take things off the walls, you have to keep the kitchen in a certain condition and so forth. And so there are transition requirements from July 28th, 2023 through check-in period, which is generally around August 23rd, 24th, around that time period of 2023.
Let's see. Can postdocs apply as well? No, since it's a kind of a different designation, it's only open to master's and doctoral students. Can we choose our roommates? Yes, that would be through the group formation process. So when group formation opens on May 27th, you'll select a group leader, which would naturally be the person who has the earliest appointment. And then they would invite their other friends to join that group. Once everyone in the group has accepted their invitation, that would be the group, and that group leader would select on behalf of the group. So that's how you select roommates, really group mates when it comes to the apartment selection process. We'll likely offer another webinar to folks that made the deadline, the application deadline, to go a little bit over the steps, because I know some of this might be new language for folks. And if you aren't an undergraduate who lived in the residence halls in the past couple of years at University of Maryland, you've never gone through this process before, likely. So we will offer either a video or a webinar, depending on what our timeline looks like, that will go through the steps of the actual group formation process and the apartment selection process, just so it's a little bit clearer. Somebody again is asking about more than one person in a room. You cannot have more than one person per room. It is one bedroom per person. You can't put two people in there. If you're interested in doing that, I would recommend looking at Graduate Hills or Graduate Gardens. They have a unit lease, which allows you to have more than one person in a bedroom.
And just want to be clear, even if it's at the consent of all roommates, it's an individual lease meant for one person only. You cannot share a bedroom space. That is not allowed. So just want to make sure everyone's on the same page. One person per bedroom, an individual lease meant for one person.
There's a few questions about roommate gender. And Chris, you might have to help me with some of this. So there's some questions about applying as with people from a different gender, and whether or not, if you apply as an individual, if you'll end up with someone with a different gender, and what if the person is non-binary.
The StarRes housing portal allows for you to only select with your male, the male-female gender. So if you're a male selecting, you will only have the option to live with other males. It won't put you in a apartment of 3 other females.
think this one was answered about deciding if you don't want the apartment. As long as you haven't made the first payment in August, if you transfer your lease, you'll be refunded the $300, but not the $25. Correct, please?
Yes.
Correct, Chris?
Yes.
All right, we're just about done. There's not too many emails or open questions left. I'm just kind of scanning and clearing out some we've already answered. So somebody asked specifically how many apartments are reserved for group selection, how many for individuals. We haven't made a decision on that. I mean, we're gonna look and see how many people apply and things like that before we can make any other decisions. We do want to make sure that there are spaces available for individuals. So.
International students can purchase insurance just like anyone else. You would just have to find insurance within many different insurance options that are available. So for example, I have renter's insurance as an extension through my car insurance. There's a lot of different ways that you can get renter's insurance. It varies from $8 to $12, $15, just depending upon your plan, but you should be able to find insurance.
Thank you, Chris. Right.
And just so you know, at this time, males would need to live with other males. I think there's a question there about that. And there's female graduate students would be living with other female graduate students.
All right, we just have 2 questions left. One I think is a more individual, so I'm gonna put my email in the chat for Marissa. If you can email me at pppleasing@umd.edu, I can spend a little bit more time chatting with you. So your next step is to log into the StarRes portal on the 16th of May on Monday and fill out the application. And then you won't hear from us until the leasing application priority deadline on the 23rd. You will get a confirmation email when you fill out the application with the dates that we've listed. But yeah, if you're local or local enough, once again, the Courtyards is going to have some where's my cursor? Can't find my computer. We're gonna have tours. So if you can make it for the tour, we hope you can. If not, there are links to the virtual tours, the video that I played at the beginning, and then there's also another nice video on the go.umd.edu/grad housing website. Just wanted to put the tour information, date information, and then that link up again. That link is also going to be, it's go.umd.edu. Sorry about that mistype. I didn't catch. And that's also where we're going to post the recording of this presentation. Probably we're going to shoot for the end of the week on that one. Let's see, final question. Yep, apply, done. Forming groups online. So you can find roommates to join your group through the OCH database. There's also a lot of really helpful information on my office's website, which is och.umd.edu. That's the Off-Campus Housing Services website. That's also a good website to familiarize yourself with, because I really encourage you to make sure that you have other options. Once again, there's only 94 spaces, which isn't a lot in the grand scheme of things, of other buildings. So we definitely hope that you'll be able to find a space, but we recognize that not everyone will be able to. So feel free to reach out to the off-campus housing services office if you have questions about searching other properties off campus. We also encourage you to look at Graduate Hills and Graduate Gardens, which is the other graduate designated housing location. But we're really excited to offer this option to grad students this year. Courtyards is a wonderful community with wonderful staff, including Chris here. I've been enjoying working with them over the past several years. So we hope that some of you will be able to make it your home. Once again, we'll post this on the grad housing website. And if you have questions, feel free to email. So if you have questions about the property, I encourage you to email the property, which is the courtyards at cocm.com. They'll be able to answer any of your questions about the property specifically, and they can also answer a lot of the same questions I can answer. If you have questions about eligibility, which is around, like the visa question that we got, applying before they have their visa, returning, taking a semester off, returning to campus, any kind of individual eligibility, student status questions, feel free to email me at pppleasing at umd.edu. All right, I think that's going to wrap it up. We really appreciate your time today, spending some time with us and learning about Courtyards. We hope it was helpful. And we look forward to seeing your applications starting on Monday.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.